Yo, what up? Welcome back. This is not a podcast. It's just my thoughts with Rob Markman. It's been a week. Sorry I didn't see y'all in a couple of days. I was traveling. I was out in LA for a bit. But I wanted to come back and talk about this Tyler Creator interview that he did with Maverick Carter. A lot of it is going viral, mostly for what Tyler has said about Ian, except he didn't actually name Ian. But Tyler spoke about this unnamed white rapper who just looks like a regular white man and is kind of cosplaying as a trap rapper, like a Gucci Man or Future or something like that. We'll talk a little bit about that, but everybody assumed he was talking about Ian. There was some fallout from that, but Tyler actually didn't name who he was talking about, so that's interesting. But that's not even the part that I want to talk about. There's a part in the interview where Tyler talks about the media and what media and social media accounts and these hip hop accounts and choose to highlight and choose to clip and cut out of interviews for headlines. So I want to get into that. But before that, I want to thank everybody who's joined the membership. Click the join button right there. There's 2 levels of membership. There's a community level and there's a monthly music club level where we have a Discord and we talk about a new album every month on a live stream, a members only live stream. This month we're going to do Drake, Nothing Was the Same. So, shout out to everybody who's joined. Definitely join. I'm always looking for feedback and ways to add more stuff and more value to it. So grateful for everybody who's joined and hope to see more of y'all. But so, getting into this Tyler thing, man, he said a lot. First of all, I thought it was a really good interview. I enjoy any time that Tyler sits down because his perspective is really dope. And I think he has true artistic intention is the word. And I don't always agree with everything that Tyler says, but I always enjoy hearing him talk. So this Maverick Carter interview that he dropped was cool. The part that pertains to me or that stood out to me or that I want to discuss with y'all is the part where Tyler is talking about the parts that we clip out of interviews and posts because folks get ad money, for more engagement. He says, and I'll play the clip, right? But, he's talking about the pages and what they promote and how that conditions fans, right? He says, and as a result, he says the conversation of music, of art is gone because when artists put something out, the last thing they talk about is music. So what does that do to the fan listening to music was basically his point. Here's the clip.
I'm adjusting to damn, everyone could see everything. You could just look up someone's address and motherfuckers is like, damn, I could know what my favorite artist is eating for breakfast and not feel weird about it because every fucking page, whether it's Akademiks, Shade Room, or whoever the fuck is posting it. Now the conversation of music, of art, is gone because when artists put something out, the last thing they talk about is music. So you know what that does to a fan listening to music? If they see the person that made the music not give any value to it, you think they gonna give a fuck about the album? They gonna listen to it for an hour and be mid.
So I agree with Tyler. I'm a bit conflicted, or I have nuance. I'm not even conflicted, but I agree with Tyler on this. I was looking for. You guys know, if you don't know, I work at Genius. I still work at Genius. I was on camera talent for Genius for many years. I'm not any longer, but I still work behind the scenes. But I was part of that group at Genius. When I got there, Genius was a lyric site, which is amazing, and had annotations on the site, which is amazing. That set it apart from any other lyric site and continues to this day. But I was the first of what's called the content organization. I was the first of that hire and really tasked with the team coming up with different video series and just different editorial focus series to have artists come into Genius and explain their lyrics or break down how they made their beat. And I was looking because I had done a number of interviews when I got hired in 2015. And I remember around that time, I had said, and I've said this in interviews, I really got to look for it. I want to look for it and clip it here. But, I used to watch interviews from artists. I remember particularly watching a T.I. interview on Hot 97. This was around the 2015 time. And T.I. had just dropped an album, and in the morning show, they did a full interview with T.I. and asked about music in the last 10 minutes of an hour-long interview. And this is this was Ebro, I guess Rosenberg. Like I love those guys, so it's like it's not an indictment to them, but I had noticed as a T.I. fan, I'm like, oh, like, and I knew it, but that like cemented it. It was like, yo, artists do interviews, and we don't even ask about the music, and I was somebody who was always interested in the music, and if it's up to me, that's all we'll talk about when I sit with an artist for the most part. And so in building Genius and building out the suite of shows like Verified and things like that, that was the aim, right? Was like, hey, let's build a place where artists can come and talk about music. You know what I'm saying? And Tyler is talking about this same thing. So it very much spoke to me of how I felt for years. As a journalist and a content creator, like I've always wanted my stuff, music, to be the focus. But here's the part where I'm kind of conflicted. I think hip hop, but really all the music is like an ecosystem, right? Because let's not get it twisted. For as many, and Tyler, I believe, mentioned in his clip, Akademiks, Shade Room, I guess TMZ can fall under that. Like there's certain outlets that just cover a certain way, but even now, like the Say Cheeses, which is a popular account, like everybody, there's a lot that fits into this mold, but there's absolutely journalists and platforms who believe in talking about the music or putting the music into the forefront, though they're not an interview platform. Something like Tiny Desk, you have the Dissect podcast where they talk strictly about music. Like there's a bunch, so there's not to say that there's absolutely zero, but. And to me, music, in particular hip hop, it's not just music, but hip hop is an ecosystem, right? So there are outlets that celebrate music. And then you got to ask yourself, do artists support them? The ones that actually celebrate music, the journalists, the folks that are like so music centered, do artists go there? Do they support them? Because those platforms get bigger based off of the star power that they can attract. That's how they stay alive. For example, I've interviewed Tyler a few times at MTV News when he was younger and just starting out. There's an infamous Rat Fix Live episode I hosted with all of Odd Future, and that went off the rails. I interviewed Tyler backstage at the VMAs when he won his first VMA for Best New Artist, and they just weren't serious interviews at all. But he was much younger then, right? I'll run like a little clip of this Odd Future interview. I've always hated this interview because I thought it could have been really great, and it just went off the rails. I was also very young. This was the infamous, for those that know, we played Tyler, Joey Badasses, and rest in peace Capital Steez, Survival Tactics. We played all of Our Future, that music video, to try to make a connection between a young up and coming Joey Badass and Odd Future at that time, because I had saw like dope similarities between them, and it just went off the rails. But whatever, you live and you learn. We were all much younger then. My interview chops weren't up to par. But by the time I get to Genius, and really help build this thing and make it just about the music, and man, I thought I had some. I pitched so many times to Tyler and his team, but nothing. And not just Tyler, not. And it's not just me neither. This is just an example though. But I pitched so many times to have him come to Genius, and there was nothing. There was a lot of artists that I pitched. Really, what it was, because we started getting into this age where the bigger artists chose not to do interviews, and if they did, a lot of times chose not to do them with music-minded people. I'm the Drakes, the Kendricks, the J. Coles, the Futures, but other genres as well, Taylor Swift's, and I've been blessed. I've interviewed all of them except Taylor throughout their careers. But what I'm saying is, the bigger that they get, they don't do interviews. And there's absolutely outlets that they can go to, and their star power will help fuel the right outlets. You know what I'm saying? And part of it is, and you got to give room to these artists. Part of it is that they keep a certain mystique. Like, hey, a guy like Kendrick, I don't know if it benefits him to sit down and explain every lyric. I think there's a mystique now about Kendrick Lamar's lyric and music and how his approach to music is. And I believe that when we do these readings into his lyrics and the double, triple, quadruple entendres, the 8 different meanings that 616 in LA can have. I don't know that Kendrick intended for all that meaning versus stuff that the fans just believe in and want to believe in. So you keep a certain mystique. Like sometimes you just put music out there and it means whatever the fans make it mean at that point. And plus the star power. A star can't be everywhere at once. Like if Beyonce just went on a super press run, then the interviews don't feel special. So I understand that artists of that stature, you have to pick and choose your moments. You have to pick and choose your spots. It's not like you can go on a press run. But like I said, there's an ecosystem of I think the artist going to the right places, giving the right interviews, sitting with the right people, feeding them, building those outlets up. So because it's a little harder when, as a journalist, as a content creator, as somebody in media, when you're not chasing the headline of beef. We talked about this before. I mean, my channel got the most traffic when it was Drake versus Kendrick, as many people's channels did. It thrives off of the negativity. And that's fine. You recognize that, but it's also like, okay, well, and that was a music conversation, but where do we go after the negativity? Where do we go after the conflict? Where do we go after the salaciousness? Like I still want to have this conversation with y'all. And when artists decided that they didn't want to give interviews, it's one of the factors that led us to where we are now, right? Where media personalities now are commenting on every little thing, making their own headlines, not having to wait for an artist. Like, podcasts, for example, like Joe Budden could be super successful just talking about what's going on with music and doesn't necessarily have to sit down with the artist. Like this is just where we are now. And artists have a little something to do with that. Because I think they stopped giving meaningful interviews. They stopped going to the places where it mattered because they figure, hey, I got my social media. I don't need to do nothing. I don't need, I can just explain it. So without Drake sitting down with somebody who can really have a real conversation where they could set the record straight, so much is left up into interpretation. And there are plenty of outlets ready to interpret it. And there are plenty of fans of the audience willing to click on stuff to read into that interpretation, right? So, I don't think it is necessarily this product of like big bad media or just like bad actors or the Akademiks of the world or the shade rooms or the TMZs or artists to a degree also feed into it, again, because it's an ecosystem. Everything that we do affects each other. So doing this thing where Tyler says, he literally said the art and music conversation is gone. He talked about it being undervalued. So my question to y'all is, and I've spoken about this before as an audience, what do you value? There's kind of two ways. A lot of what I see going on today is the product of a Wendy Williams style of approach to media, particularly in hip hop. It's not why I got into it. But it's valued. A lot of people are into it. It is entertaining. The Akademiks of the world, the shade rooms, the TMZs, they don't really talk about how the music is made or get real nerdy into it. But damn, is it entertaining. Like, we have to admit, we watch and we click and we want the tea because it's entertainment. The numbers don't lie, right, in terms of what gets traffic. So the question is, how much do we value? And I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to myself too. But y'all answer this question. How much do you value conversations around music, around like the real nuts and bolts about how an album gets made, where the inspiration came from, what inspired an artist to write this, what inspired an artist to produce this, what inspired an artist to use these sounds and these colors. And Tyler was kind of right because he talked about a lot of that in his Maverick interview. He talked about teaching himself how to play the piano by learning Outkast, She's Alive by ear when he was a kid. He talked about making beats on the Bastard album from a cracked version of Fruity Loops where he couldn't save the beat. So he had to finish a beat right then and there and export it before he could move on to the next one. And then once he exported it, he couldn't change it. Like, those are dope nuggets of information. Like, he talked about writing his first rap at 7 years old to the Black Eyed Peas Positivity record, right? So those are like dope nuggets of information that's like, okay, this is what makes Tyler click. None of those went viral. the headlines came out. So he talked about artists who use music as a lick, as a way to get money. Even, he's saying that everybody is doing cosplay, right? And he talked about this white kid who's mocking the culture. Everyone assumed that he was talking about Ian, but though he never actually said Ian's name. Here's the clip.
Right now, this white kid, regular, like, Caucasian man, and he's, like, mocking Future and Gucci Mane, like, rap music. And, like, people are like, this shit hard. It's not even, like, satire. It's like, I'm just joking. I'm just mocking it. But I'm like, no, you can't do. And I hold rap music so close to my heart because this shit changed my life and everyone's life around me. And I'm a nerd about this shit. This is, like, weird. And I'm looking at it and something about it, like, don't even sit well with me.
And look, he could have been talking about Ian because he fits the description, but he actually never said Ian's name. So who reports on that and how? And then it even got a reaction from Ian's manager, Boo, legendary A&R. Most people know him as Akon's brother, but Boo has been an accomplished A&R for years. But even Boo responded on IG. Let me see if I pull up his response real quick. We could put it on the screen. He said, yo, Felicia the GOAT, which is Tyler, I signed Ian and I'm from Atlanta. He sounds nothing like Gucci or Future, LOL. It's called influence. But I never thought I'd see the day where you become old and hate on the youth, LOL. So, there's that. But it's funny because Tyler never said Ian's name. I also heard, I'm not going to get into speculation, but I heard even Boo's message on IG story that there was a fallout from that. So we'll see if that makes the headline. But these are just my basic thoughts. I thought that was interesting. Definitely check out the whole interview. I thought it was a really dope interview. But I wanted to talk about the media portion of this. What Tyler said about artists like and media outlets like conditioning the fans. Basically, we're devaluing the music conversation, which I agree with. So the question is, do we want to get it back? And then how do we get there? All right. So let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, do all of that. Until the next time. Peace.